Today's history is a source of many life lessons. To set the stage, I am a 30-year-old man raised by a single mother. My father passed away when I was just 4 years old, and my mother chose not to remarry. She admirably assumed the role of the head of the household, providing for our family. Despite her efforts, the absence of a strong male influence or role model in my life became a crucial factor. Growing up as the child of a single mother, one often witnesses the dedicated efforts these women put forth, imparting what they believe is best for their child. However, the lack of a robust male role model can inadvertently lead a male child down a better male trajectory, whether consciously or unconsciously. It's a common scenario for those in this situation. It often takes life's experiences to serve as a wake-up call, prompting individuals to discover their alpha potential. Throughout my junior high and high school years, I was deemed attractive but remained reserved around women. My shyness stemmed from a lack of understanding on how to approach and interact with them, a challenge that persisted until later in life when significant experiences prompted a transformative shift. I used to overthink situations in my mind, often avoiding one-on-one interactions with girls due to nervousness and embarrassment about their potential judgments. It's a common pitfall, letting overthinking dominate one's conscience. The lesson here is to strike a balance. While it's beneficial to consider possible outcomes, letting overthinking control your actions is counterproductive. Life is fleeting, and taking chances is essential. Despite being in situations where thoughtful consideration was warranted, I never mustered the courage to ask a girl out throughout my years. The realization struck when a man in his 30s shared that he had never asked anyone out in his entire life, not even to a high school dance. In contrast, during my high school days, I attended 5 dances, each initiated by a different girl. However, these experiences were awkward and disastrous because I struggled to act appropriately in those situations. Despite being considered attractive and having women express interest by asking him out, the guy faced challenges in navigating these dates. The women took on a more assertive role, but the lack of compatibility during the dates led to unsuccessful relationships, with none of them asking him out again. It highlights the importance of not only taking chances, but also being prepared to engage effectively when opportunities arise. During my inaugural year in college, my focus was solely on academics, with little to no time allocated for socializing or partying. Despite my roommates' attempts to encourage me, labeling me Mr. Straight-Lace, I remained dedicated to my studies. They, on the other hand, were both exemplary students and charismatic individuals with a penchant for enjoying life. As my second year commenced, I found myself once again residing in the dorms with the same roommates. On our second weekend back, they insisted that I join them for a party hosted by a sorority on Friday night. Their persuasive technique involved a playful threat. If I declined, they vowed to carry me there. Eventually, I relented, a decision that proved to be beneficial. Having been surrounded by these guys for over a year, I began absorbing some alpha male characteristics, gradually emerging from my introverted shell. Sometimes a gentle nudge or, in this case, a playful threat is necessary to push someone out of their comfort zone. I was initially unaware of the nature of the party, but it soon became apparent that it was an event where sorority members chose a guy to spend the night with, implying a romantic or intimate encounter. The realization hit me that the night was about to take an unexpected and exciting turn. Unaware of what awaited me, I entered the party, where the atmosphere was charged with the energy of people indulging in drinks and festivities. I had never tried alcohol before, but that night I decided to have a beer. While my roommates worked the room, engaging with couples engaged in kisses and cuddles, I found myself sitting on the edge of the couch, anticipating yet another awkward social scenario. Feeling out of place at the party, I contemplated leaving to return to my lonely dorm room. However, just as I was about to make my exit, a beautiful girl named Scarlett approached me and expressed her interest in spending time together. Surprised but intrigued, I agreed. Little did I know at that moment that she would eventually become my wife. A few years later, Scarlett and I spent the night talking. She attempted to get closer, attempting to cuddle, but my nerves led me to keep avoiding physical contact, opting instead to prattle on about trivial matters. I can vividly imagine this scene, his nervous chatter as a coping mechanism. Remarkably, Scarlett wasn't put off by my behavior and stayed with me throughout the night, engrossed in our conversation. Around 10:30 p.m., she suggested going up to her room. Intrigued but uncertain, I asked for the purpose, and she casually replied, "Just to talk." Agreeing to join her, we proceeded upstairs. Once in her room, my nervous talking resumed until she gently hushed me, saying, "Shay, we've talked enough. Let's just sit on the bed and cuddle a bit." I acquiesced as she took the lead in embracing me. The sensation was undeniably pleasant, and soon we found ourselves kissing. Nervously, I began exploring, moving my hand to her breasts and private areas, engaging in activities I had never before experienced with a woman. It's worth noting that this guy is in his 20s, making this his first venture into what some might call second base. Aware of the impending next steps, internal nerves set in, prompting me to contemplate an exit strategy. As the situation intensified, my anxiety grew, and at around 1 a.m., I decided it was time to leave. Despite her plea for me to stay, I conjured up an excuse about needing to wake up early the next day and made a hasty departure, retreating to my dorm room. Subsequently, I found myself ruminating on my decision, regretting not taking things further. Picture this guy presented with an opportunity right before him, yet due to nerves and mental turmoil, he hastily leaves, only to regret it afterward. The following day, I sought solace in the library, immersing myself in a stack of books on intercourse and sex to prepare for what I envisioned as the big day with Scarlett. Later that day, I visited the grocery store and purchased my first box of condoms, practicing putting one on in the afternoon. Anticipation filled the air as I spent the night in our dorm room, eagerly waiting by the phone for Scarlett to call. Unfortunately, the call never came, leaving me crushed. This episode marked another better move on my part, reflecting my genuine interest in Scarlett. Realizing I had a chance to redeem myself, rather than taking proactive steps like reaching out or visiting her, I opted for a passive approach. I sat by the phone, hoping she would call, a move that could be considered quite beta, especially at around 10:40 at night. Feeling the need to clear my head, I decided to take a walk across the campus towards the general area where Scarlett's sorority house was located. The campus was alive with couples strolling, hand in hand, and sharing laughter. However, my mood took a nosedive when I spotted Scarlett with another guy about 70 feet away, holding hands and enjoying each other's company. It was a devastating sight, especially at 10:40 at night. I wonder how he could see 70 feet in front of him, unless it was a well-lit commons area or something. Nevertheless, I swiftly returned to my room and stewed in disappointment all night. Once again, I succumbed to a defeatist attitude, catastrophizing the situation in my mind and berating myself, an unhealthy response one should avoid. Aware that I lacked the courage to call and ask her out, I resigned myself to thinking that I had missed another chance with a woman. The school week passed, yet Scarlett lingered in my thoughts. When Friday arrived, I decided to break free from my self-imposed solitude and joined my roommates at a local bar. It marked a positive shift as we spent the night drinking, playing pool, and enjoying laughter. Summoning the courage, I even asked a few women to dance, relishing in the good times. Around midnight, a group of girls entered the bar, and among them, I spotted Scarlett. I found myself dancing near the door with another girl, catching her immediate attention. She kept her eyes locked on me, and in that moment, my sexual market values seemed to soar. Seeing me enjoying myself with another woman added a new layer of appeal in her eyes. While she had desired me before, this display signaled that I had options. After the dance, I excused myself to the bathroom to check my appearance. After checking my appearance in the bathroom, I walked out and approached Scarlett directly. I mustered up the courage to ask her if she wanted to dance, to which she enthusiastically agreed. We danced energetically to a couple of songs. When a slow dance began, instead of retreating to the sidelines, as I might have done before, I summoned some newfound courage and insisted we share the dance floor. Breaking away from my previous hesitations, I embraced her, initiating my first ever experience of a slow dance. It became apparent that Scarlett responded positively to my newfound assertiveness. Previously, she might have perceived me as someone lacking confidence, perhaps even placing me in the friend zone. However, witnessing me confidently walk up to her, ask her to dance, and share a slow dance likely shifted her perception. She might have thought, wait a second, this guy is strong, confident, and someone I could potentially have a relationship with. As my confidence continued to grow, I seized the moment and asked Scarlett if she would be interested in coming back to my room with me. She responded with shock and said yes. I informed my roommates of my departure and instructed them not to return until at least 3 a.m. We headed back to my room, and the mental rehearsal I had done truly paid off. Sparks flew, and we both had an incredible time. At the ripe age of 21, I felt like I had finally come of age, a rare occurrence these days. Scarlett and I started seeing each other exclusively thereafter. Throughout the remainder of our college years, however, I regrettably reverted to my beta male tendencies. Scarlett began taking the lead on decisions regarding where we were going, who we were hanging out with, and so on. This return to better behavior proved to be a significant mistake, considering the positive outcome when I had taken the lead previously. For some reason, perhaps subconsciously, I recoiled back into my old ways midway through our senior year. Now, here's an interesting turn of events. Scarlett, the girl in this story, proposed to me. Surprisingly, I accepted, acknowledging that it was a real beta male move. It's worth noting that such a proposal should never have happened. She can suggest it, but the acceptance was a deviation from the typical norms. However, the man, being the alpha male, must always take the lead in a relationship to shape its outcome. I allowed her to choose the engagement ring, a pricey one that cost over $5,000, a sum I didn't possess. To cover the expense, I had to borrow the money from my parents. Here's another instance of a beta male move. I initially opposed buying such an expensive ring, but Scarlett insisted, labeling it as her once-in-a-lifetime event. I reluctantly relented. Next, Scarlett took charge of determining our wedding date and deciding where we would live. The dynamic seemed far from a balanced 50-50 relationship, with her wielding much more influence. She chose Oklahoma City for better career prospects, despite my career being better suited to the St. Louis area, where we had grown up and lived. In essence, I was surrendering my purpose for hers, a significant mistake, as mentioned earlier. We tied the knot the summer after our graduation and subsequently relocated to Oklahoma City. While Scarlett swiftly secured a job in her profession, I faced challenges finding a position aligned with my career goals. In the end, I settled for a job as an assistant manager trainee with a large national sporting retailer. In the subsequent years, Scarlett experienced rapid career advancement, while my progress was more gradual. I genuinely felt happy for her success, yet beneath the surface, I harbored resentment for having sacrificed my purpose to work in a job that merely served as a means to an end. By means to an end, I mean a job where I put in the hours solely to earn money rather than pursuing my true passion. While I developed strong connections with my coworkers and valued our customers, the job did not align with my life's true passion. Nevertheless, we lived in a seemingly content marriage, where I adhered to the mantra of happy life, happy wife. A trait that could be perceived as another beta male characteristic, as indicated in parentheses. After 5 years of marriage, Scarlett decided it was time for us to have a baby. She stopped using birth control, and our daughter quickly came into our lives, becoming the light of my life within 6 months of her birth. However, around this time, Scarlett's personality underwent a noticeable change. She became moody and frequently picked fights over trivial matters. Additionally, she started delivering backhanded criticisms, particularly about my job in retail. It's important to note there's nothing inherently wrong with working in retail. Careers in retail can be fulfilling, especially as you ascend the management ranks. While it may not be suitable for everyone due to long hours and hard work, it is a field worthy of pride. The industry offers excellent career opportunities for those who embrace its challenges. However, regardless of my dedicated efforts, working tirelessly, actively participating in raising our daughter, taking on the majority of household chores, and shouldering the financial responsibilities, I sensed a change. It seemed as if, for some inexplicable reason, she was falling out of love with me. I believe she perceives me as a complete beta male, someone who will always be there regardless of how she treats him because she has been the sole love of his life. Now, in her corporate environment, surrounded by what may seem like alpha males, she might be comparing me unfavorably, viewing me as soft and lacking the strength and leadership qualities exhibited by her colleagues. This troubling treatment persisted for about 6 months, escalating to the point where she began making snide and backhanded comments about me in front of her friends, many of whom were co-workers at her company. This situation was undoubtedly not a positive development. She became increasingly aggressive and mentally abusive, a harmful situation for anyone, regardless of gender. Adding to the distress, many of her friends were men, intensifying my feelings of inadequacy. However, in my perpetual role as the ever-loving beta male, I refrained from addressing the issue with her. Instead, I continued striving to be the best husband and father possible, enduring the emotional strain. The turning point in my life came on a Saturday when an executive from Scarlett's company hosted a party at his home, inviting about 10 couples, including us. With a babysitter arranged for the evening, the hours leading up to the party were filled with Scarlett picking fights over trivial matters and issuing instructions on how to behave, what to say, and what not to say. She even explicitly stated, "You better not embarrass me." I once again endured the abuse in silence. The audacity of someone, whether male or female, saying such things to their spouse is entirely inappropriate and disrespectful. It's disheartening to witness, knowing that he tolerated it. Upon arriving at the party, I complied with her instructions, and things initially went smoothly. After dinner, everyone gathered around a fire pit for conversation. When I excused myself to use a restroom and fetch more drinks for Scarlett, I discovered the bar set up behind a mound just behind the fire pit. Although the bar wasn't visible from the fire pit, the conversation Scarlett clearly. While waiting for the bartender to prepare our drinks, I overheard Scarlett talking about me to her co-workers and executives. Paraphrasing her words, she remarked, "My husband works in retail." I know, a real embarrassment, right? Her words crushed my soul. However, what she uttered next transformed me from a timid beta male into a resolute, red-pilled alpha. She boldly declared, "I only keep him around because he's a good house mule and is a good father." It's unimaginable for someone to share such sentiments about their spouse with strangers or co-workers, whether male or female, branding someone as a good house mule, and claiming the only reason they're kept around is for their domestic contributions and parenting skills. Once again, it was an utterly disrespectful statement, met with laughter from her co-workers. In that moment, I felt an intense surge of anger. I was pleased that this man was angered and felt the urge to stride into the circle, asserting his authority over her right then and there. Rather than confronting the situation, I entered the house, placed the drinks on the kitchen counter, and exited through the front door, embarking on a 2.5-mile walk back to our house. Approximately an hour later, my phone rang, and it was Scarlett demanding to know my whereabouts, expressing her embarrassment. I curtly informed her that I was home, and frankly didn't care if she felt embarrassed or not, then promptly hung up. Despite her 3 subsequent attempts to call me back and numerous text messages inquiring about the issue, I remained unresponsive. About 30 minutes later, she returned home, entering the house with a concerned expression. Sensing my distress, she questioned, "What's wrong? What happened?" I confronted her, revealing that I had overheard everything she had shared with her co-workers and executives, and I was seething with anger. In response, she laughed it off, insisting it was just a joke. I vehemently asserted that it was no laughing matter and expressed my current state of complete misery in our relationship, stating that I would have left her that night if not for our daughter. The cumulative mental anguish she had inflicted on me over the past 6 months had reached a boiling point, and her disparaging remarks to her co-workers and executives served as the catalyst for a long overdue explosion. Now this man is finally expressing his pent-up emotions. In hindsight, he realizes that he should have established clear boundaries with this woman from the beginning of their relationship. However, being a beta at the time, he only discovered his alpha side when pushed to the limit during this particular event. With this revelation, she broke into tears, questioning the seriousness of his statements. He affirmed that he was indeed dead serious. She responded with desperation, asking if he was no longer happy with her and questioning his love for her. His response was unwavering. He expressed absolute misery and dissatisfaction that had persisted for quite some time. He candidly admitted that, despite his initial hope that being a good husband and father would bring positive change, the opposite occurred. She became more verbally and mentally abusive. He acknowledged his own mistake in tolerating such behavior, but declared that he would no longer do so. In his eyes, she had become nothing more than a selfish individual. The shock and worry on her face were palpable, as if her entire world had been turned upside down. Desperate, she pleaded for forgiveness, expressing sorrow and emphasizing that he was the love of her life. She couldn't bear the thought of losing him. She went on to propose quitting her job to salvage our relationship if I desired it. However, I made it clear that while I accepted her apology, I could never forgive or forget the way she had treated me over the past year. With that, I expressed my need for some time alone to contemplate the situation and announced my decision to sleep in the guest room. As I began distancing myself, she resumed crying, pleading, and begging for me to return to our bedroom. Firmly, I refused and ascended the stairs, taking a shower in the guest bathroom while ensuring to lock the door to prevent her intrusion. I then retired for the night in the guest bedroom, still simmering with frustration over her hurtful words. It took me several hours to finally drift into sleep, consumed by thoughts of the previous evening. Upon waking in the morning, I sensed a presence in the room. When I opened my eyes, there was Scarlett, sitting at the edge of the bed, gazing at me with a look of adoration, akin to a devoted puppy. I inquired about how long she had been there, and she admitted to watching me sleep for a couple of hours. She attempted to place her hand on my leg, but I shifted away and rose to use the bathroom. It was a Sunday morning, and the rest of the day was spent with our daughter, engaging in extensive discussions about the future of our relationship. I took a decisive stance, establishing guidelines for our intimacy, how she should treat me, and making it clear that any future disrespect would result in immediate divorce. I emphasized that this was not a threat but a promise. Surprisingly, she readily agreed to all my terms. It's crucial to note in this narrative that when this man took charge, the woman found him highly attractive. Recall the incident at the bar where he approached her, suggesting they dance. He took the lead, slow dance with her, and then proposed going back to his room, to which she willingly agreed. It was evident that she desired him to be a leader, but he had regressed into a better male role. Now he had finally stepped up once again. You can observe her positive response to these changes. Following our conversation, we quickly resumed an intimate connection, and our relationship and love life have never been better or more adventurous. This transformation occurred a year ago, and since then, positive changes have unfolded in our lives. I secured a significant promotion to a district-level position in St. Louis. Despite potential limitations on Scarlett's corporate ladder ascent at her company's Oklahoma City headquarters, she didn't hesitate to support the move. Remarkably, Scarlett appears to find more fulfillment in her role as a wife and mother, with her career now taking a backseat. In retrospect, it seems that all along she was seeking for me to assert myself, take charge of the household, and be the man she needed. A role I only embraced after being pushed to the edge by that pivotal event. I regret not taking this step years ago, but I was blinded by my blue-pilled beta male perspective, failing to comprehend the dynamics at play. And that concludes the story. Once again, the key lesson here is multifaceted, but a crucial one is the importance of finding your alpha and assuming a leadership role in the relationship. Relationships where women take on a masculine role may endure, but they often lack happiness and normalcy, leaving both partners dissatisfied. Recapping the key takeaways, it's emphasized that internally, masculine traits can be unattractive, making such women unsuitable for committed relationships. Beta males may be initially drawn to these women, but they usually come to regret it, as illustrated in the story. In this case, the man was attracted not just by her beauty, but also by her inclination to take charge. He comfortably slid into a beta male role, following her directives, which ultimately led to discontent. The story underscores the universal desire for women to have a man take the lead and embody an alpha presence in the relationship. Even if a woman has a strong career, she still craves a man who will lead the home, make decisions, and exhibit boldness, rather than passivity or a more feminine role. This dynamic was clearly demonstrated in the narrative. And the last two lessons are crucial. Never compromise your purpose for a relationship. As seen in the story, once the man found his alpha, he prioritized his career, pursuing a promotion that led to a move. Although this decision affected her job location, she willingly followed him, highlighting the importance of each person maintaining their individual purpose. Lastly, for both men and women, it's imperative never to tolerate disrespect. The man in the story endured abuse for a while, initially evoking sympathy due to his naivety. However, as time passed, it became clear that tolerating such behavior was his own issue. The key takeaway is that you get what you tolerate. Feel free to share your thoughts on this video by leaving comments below.